Hello, I'm Karen Marsdale, President and CEO of the Greater Reading Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Welcome to Member Spotlight. And I'm very pleased today because actually I have an individual. This is going to be a bit of a surprise for all of you. Instead of being behind the camera, she's in front of the camera today.
Here we go.
So I don't think she's nervous, but we're excited to actually interview Toni Reece from People Chronicles. Yeah. So this is, Toni, it's a little bit of a flip here, and I think this is going to be fun because we're going to talk about a lot of things today. But first, let's. I've known you for a number of years, and this concept, this dream that you had of creating this venue of opportunity for people to share stories, and it's just grown and sort of blossomed in this community. But tell us how this really came to fruition.
In a hotel room.
Oh, see, lots of good ideas come out of hotel rooms.
Right. No, actually, with the work that I've done over the years in Reading, I did a lot of workforce development training, as you know.
Sure, absolutely.
And a lot of coaching, and I was fortunate enough to have a company in the UK for 6 years, and I have been privileged to hear people's stories from all over the world. And I learned from them, and a lot of these stories have absolutely influenced the path that I've taken. So because of having that privilege of hearing other people's stories, I realized that we don't really have a lot of venues here in Berks County for people to tell their story so that we can learn from each other. And for example, what you're doing, and we're learning about your members, and you're so excited to talk to them, and they're so excited to be here.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing.
Exactly, and you learn so much. And so I decided that we would pilot this. I talked to Craig Poole at the Crown at the time, Crown Plaza, and I told him I was thinking of doing this. And Craig's like, well, if you're going to do it, why don't we do it out of the hotel room at the Crown? And let's pilot it. Right? So we set up a podcast studio out of the Crown Plaza Hotel. Who would have thought? And one thing led to another, and we just kept building on the strength of the need. So we recognized the need and then met the need with the community. And the need was a venue to hold stories, share stories, and then expose the stories. And that's what we've done. And it is the most important work I have ever done. That it has become a moral obligation for me. I have a wonderful team of Joe Painter and Cami Nieves with me. I've had amazing support of peers and colleagues like yourself and the Chamber and GREP and just amazing support and belief that this could work. And so we just keep trying to innovate and create different paths and different ways for people to come in, feel comfortable, and trust that they can share their story so that we can learn from them.
And that's what I think is really, you touched upon that whole concept of storytelling, and I know a few years ago, that became sort of a kind of a buzz word, and I think that it's probably as old as man, because when men couldn't write, they told stories, in caves and those kinds of things.
Right.
And then stories were handed down when people were not able to and didn't know how to read or write. They told stories to their children and their children's children, and isn't it really the story that's really behind the person that you remember the most? A story that someone says, and thinking of Craig Poole, I know that Craig often will say to people, "Well, tell me your story," and I think that one of the things that does is it creates this human bond, because everyone has a story. We sometimes get so, we tend to make either judgment calls or assumptions on people based on things other than knowing what their story is.
Right, and every bit of business, every part of commerce is a transaction.
Right.
So in this business, it's a human transaction. And so it's human, our currency is human to human.
Right.
And you know, what's beautiful about this is there's no hierarchy. Your story is not any better than anybody else's, and we have no judgment on that. The only judgment that not even judgment, the rules that we guide this business with are the values of integrity and authenticity. And as long as we stay within those values, then anybody can come in here and we will help you tell your story. And what has surprised me the most and humbled me the most is that people do not believe that their story is worth telling.
Absolutely, I would believe that.
Right, and so many people, you don't have to be a great storyteller.
Sure.
You
don't have to go to class to storytell.
No.
Even though there are those types of things available.
Yes, and we help people through that as well. But it is really, it's just, we have to learn from each other.
Exactly. And interestingly, there has been this kind of thought process, if you will, or thinking in the world of business and commerce, and particularly in the world of sales, that learning how to tell a story is much more impactful than selling somebody your product or service. And I think that is so true, because every transaction is a human transaction, and I have to know that I can trust and believe in your integrity before any of that transaction happens.
Right, it's the experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And we get to experience each other, and so it's and with social media and all the technology available to us, I didn't know what a podcast was when I did this, but podcasting, now people say, oh, well, you're the queen of podcasting. I'm like, no, that's just a tool, right? Just like this camera is a tool. It's where the benefit lies and where the energy lies is the person who's sitting here and just having that conversation.
Absolutely. Now, in thinking about this and bringing it to fruition as a business, that really is such a huge benefit to a community. Are there types of businesses in other communities? Are you finding other Toni Reeces out there that, or are we that progressive?
I don't know. I know that there's people that are doing podcasting out there. There are people who,
but in the way you're doing it, with really kind of doing the the storytelling and the reason and the purpose to connect human beings together and learn from one another.
I don't want to be arrogant enough to say that nobody's doing what we're doing. That would take a lot of arrogance. But I think I can say very confidently that our differentiator could be the sense of mission behind it.
Sure.
And the sense of purpose, and that this is the real deal.
Right.
And I think that's our differentiator. We care, and our customer experience, I think, represents that.
That, I think, is so true, and I think it's really kind of snowballing in our community. It's becoming, and that's what I think happens when, there are early adopters of things that are new and different, and then there are people that are saying, wow, I saw that and I thought that was cool, and maybe that would be great for my organization. So talk a little bit about the evolution of the organization, the company.
Well, we started out with nonprofits to start, and we would coach them on what stories they should be telling. We build them landing pages because some nonprofits didn't have enough money for a web page, so we created a presence for them on the People Chronicles page. And that's where we started. And then that grew to government agencies, to business owners, individuals who just want to come in and tell their stories. So where we've gone with that is now we're doing original programming. And we have Anna Rosengara Milch comes in and does a show about women in Berks County. What can we learn from your story? Phoebe Kanakis comes in and does a video series called Pure Food for Thought, where she interviews growers, farmers, chefs. We do a show on sustainability. And we've created a heart project for me. We do now called Life Lessons. So the series is, I did a project, I still do a project for Berks County Living called the Get Inspired Project. And that's a project I did in 2009. And I interviewed, using the same 4 questions, I interviewed 365 people, posted one a day. Oh. And we had 4 million people at the end of that year following that project.
That is amazing.
It was, and so it was awesome. And so we were using that model of asking the same questions. We designed the questions to take a 10-minute journey, but everybody within this particular category of life lessons has the same questions. So one of the projects we're doing is called Life Lessons Showcasing Senior Adults. Now the Highlands at Wyomissing is sponsoring that for us, and we do 2 shows a month, and we interview the most amazing seniors. And the typical questions for them, everybody gets the same question: what is their greatest life lesson? What would we be surprised to learn about them? And the one that always kills us is, what does love mean to you?
Oh, wow.
And we just leave there destroyed. And then another one we just started is about veterans.
Oh.
And the veterans were asking, what does honor mean to you? And what does freedom mean to you? And, so there's a series of questions for them. And we are also kicking off in the first of the year an immigrants project. So these, between the original programming, which are designed to, showcase individuals in the community, to the Life Lessons project, which is a whole different model, and then the other product that we've developed is called the FYI series, where these are 30 minutes of time, and we film 6 to 7, 3 to 4 minute segments. FYI, what do I need to know about this topic? So the Visitors Bureau came in and they did 6 little vignettes on what is a CVB, why is it relevant to the economy, and they used just very short, succinct sound bites of learning in a 30-minute time frame.
Interesting.
And so that's the FYI series. So it's evolved into many aspects of either learning, exposing, showcasing, but again, human to human transaction, all of us learning from each other.
That is, isn't it like so simple but yet so brilliant, because we spend our time talking to people. We're in conversation, so just so many words a day. I know there is data about women probably have more words per day than men do. But how often do we really take the time to really ask the story? And then, as you said, you just can't believe the knowledge that is imparted that brings each one of us to a place that's better.
It raises everybody up.
Yeah, exactly.
It equalizes the playing field, and it raises everybody up. Because
right.
if you are lifted up because you got a chance to tell your story, and people are paying attention to your story, and then you go home and you share that, or you share that in your business, and then someone else comes in, we all get lifted up together as a community if we feel valued enough that someone really wants to learn from us or know our story.
Right, exactly.
And that's an honor.
Maybe the next project could be talking to young people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, look at children, whether they are teenagers or young people, and they don't know their stories.
That's right. Well, we actually have a young gentleman at the Reading School District who is doing his own podcast series. It's called The Geo Effect. And
that's very cool.
He is interviewing seniors at Reading High School about what their dreams are, where they're going, what's happening. And they may have that be a legacy project at the Reading School District, and it's on the People Chronicles.
That is neat, because you know what? I think that gives those students the opportunity to know they are valued for what they, for who they are and what their stories are.
Right.
Too. So, I think it's great. Well, I know that, as we often do in our show, we have to cut the tape. We could go on for hours with talking to so many neat members, but it's such an honor to get you from behind the scenes and talk about what this is, because this is just an amazing, just a gem in Berks County that we have.
Thank you.
And thank you for just being not only creative and not only inspiring, but also taking that dream and that idea and bringing it to fruition.
Thank you, and thank you for being so supportive. It's people like yourselves and your organization that, you know, your care and concern and really wanting to help people, we couldn't do without.
Well, that's what our community needs to do. I mean, we all need to support one another. So thank you again, Toni, and
Thank you.
happy holidays. Thank you for taking this time with me today.
Absolutely.